Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be doing SORARE in 2025 and my tips and tricks that I've learned so far in SORARE to try and help you guys if you're just starting or if you're new or maybe if your gallery isn't that big. So yeah, the reason why I wanted to cover this today was because a lot of people come to my streams and they ask me, how do I start, who should I buy, all these like starting up questions, and I think sometimes as SORAM managers, we can kind of get lost in the trail of sort of thinking that our gallery is this like kind of the norm. So sometimes when people join my lineup building streams, I'll think, yeah, they've got a decent selection of players similar to me. But then obviously you realise that there's people that play this game and at all different levels, and you can play SORARE with hundreds of thousands of pounds, and you can play SORARE with £0. So it's the scale of or the differential in galleries is massive. And sometimes I think as managers we can get a little bit like lost in that. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of update you guys on sort of my progress and how I've been going. Obviously I'm relatively new to SORARE, only started at the start of this season. But I would say I've been quite successful. So I know I've spoke to a few people, and they've said that the things that I've already returned is quite good. And obviously you could look at other people who have obviously returned probably more than me in a shorter period of time. But yeah, so pretty much I just wanted to get across my learnings and my thoughts if you were just joining SORARE today. So if you haven't gathered already, this is going to be a bit of a different style of video than perhaps I've uploaded previously on the channel. I think all of the content that I've released so far is sort of short form or like edited quite a lot, whereas I think this video is going to be more like kind of like podcasty vibes. So like just sort of stick it on and whilst you're doing lineups or something, like background noise, kind of like a longer video if you like, just full of just information and me just talking and hoping that someone picks up on something I say, and then they could be like, oh yeah, I'll use that in my strategy and my gameplay. And I just wanted to address pretty much almost like a review of my own gallery, sort of as maybe you would consider this a halfway point in the season. It's about halfway anyway. Depends on your gallery, obviously depends what you're invested in. But for me, for those of you guys that don't know, I'm quite invested into the Premier League, hence the the Newcastle shirt. But yeah, so that's pretty much where I wanted to start really with this video. Is my biggest recommendation for people that have literally just downloaded SORARE and you're looking to invest in your first couple of cards or whatnot, is I would suggest the first thing you should buy is the team the better, or if you do want to buy, obviously there's two sides to SORARE. You can play the rival side, which is all in this section here, and it's all free to play stuff. This is actually a great starting point. We should definitely start with this because this is how you learn how the scoring matrix works. Not that it's not incredibly difficult to understand. Obviously, if you guys play FPL, you know the scoring matrix and things like that by now. But pretty much, long story short, there's divisions 1 through 10. I'd say it's quite hard it's pretty much easy until you get to maybe Division 3, and then it's a bit more like competitive. But yeah, I'd say my biggest advice, maybe for those of you guys that are stuck in the lower divisions, is to obviously check the lineups before, before you actually play them to make sure everyone's playing. That's probably like the I guess the most important thing. And then let's just click on one of mine here. There you go. The Chelsea game's starting soon. So what I would do for a game like this is obviously initially you've got to have some sort of knowledge on the teams, and then sort of think in your head how you think the game's going to go. In this game, I think Chelsea will probably win, score a couple of goals, but I could see maybe Palace scoring. But yeah, I would assume that Chelsea probably dominate possession. So take that, when you're making your lineup, take that into consideration. So you'll put in your players. I wouldn't really try and be too much there's no need to be like too different. For example, like I think everyone should be playing Palmer here, really. Like, there's no point in saying like, oh, let's try and be niche and different and go with Pedro Neto or Sancho, because realistically, everyone's going to have Palmer and everyone's probably going to captain him because he's just one of the best scorers on the platform. And yeah, for those guys that play FPL or just watch football, you'll know that he's one of, he's a star player, so you want to include him. And then as for the other boys go, yeah, I recommend in terms of like obviously you want to play them to your tactic, like pick who you want to pick, but yeah, bear the tactic in mind. Obviously the tactics are just down here. I would say Gegen press, like this is generally speaking, Gegen presses is good with two midfielders. Clearances probably two centre backs. Shots on target, yeah, you need the striker and probably a winger and also a game where the other team, you really think the team is going to dominate. Jogo Bonito, you pretty much just need two quick wingers. This is obviously talking about the extra position here. And then Tiki Taka pretty much for if you think they're going to dominate possession, which is hence why I've got this one on for the Chelsea game. Now I'm not sitting here saying, oh, this is the perfect team, it's 100% going to win, but like it's probably a very good lineup. I don't know if I'm going to win or not, but let's just say if you are in Division 6, if you're lining a team up like this, you're probably going to win. Yeah, because it's just smart. Think about it. You don't need to spam all the lineups. I also suggest for those of you guys in the rivals section anyway, arena tickets. Obviously, when you're at don't waste them. Pretty much. When I was first joining SORARE, I built up like I don't even know how many. I had like loads of arena tickets because I was just getting loads of boxes and like farming them in the lower leagues. And I was just spending unnecessary tickets in divisions I'd already won because I didn't really understand that when you get to these hard divisions, you need to be spending a lot of tickets because it's more competitive. You're more likely to lose. It does happen, you can't just beat everybody. It's just unrealistic. So you're going to be spending tickets to stay in the division, to win prizes and things like that. So yeah, I recommend trying to save the tickets where you can. Let's just say you're safely promoted, and then you could, if you spend like four more tickets, you might get the top box. I would honestly rather just keep the tickets because the difference between the two boxes is probably like negligible. So do you really want to waste the four tickets when the likelihood is you're going to probably get tickets in the boxes anyway? So you might as well keep them if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I'd say for rivals, yeah, just be smart, check the lineups, go for games that you know. And yeah, just it's a good way to get free rewards, so you might as well just do it. Especially if you're playing SORARE Pro, it's just like don't be lazy, come in here every day and play the free play at least. You know what I mean? Just have a punt at any lineup. But yeah, I think it's like one of them tools that's just you would just be crazy to not do really. If it depends what you're playing SORARE for, but if you're trying to maximize your gallery, Rivals is a very good way to do that. So, moving on then to, yeah, pretty much the next step, if you like, in SORARE. So obviously you've played Rivals, you know the scoring matrix, you got it all down. The next step is, I guess, buying cards. Now, for those of you guys that are completely new to SORARE, there is 4 or 5 different scarcities. No, four different scarcities. Sorry, you got limited, rare, super rare, and unique. Unique is just like I haven't even looked at the cards because they're just pretty much they're in order of price. Limited being the cheapest, unique being the most expensive. If you've not got much money, it's not really much. It's not really hard to sit here and say you're probably going to be playing limited or rare. The other two, like super rare and unique, is like a different species playing that competition. That's a lot of money. Which yeah, obviously, if you're watching this YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure you don't have that sort of funds. So I'm just going to be focused on limited and rare. I will quickly say I haven't even dipped into rare myself. I just have a pure limited gallery. Although I will say rare is more expensive but easier to win, if that makes sense, because less people have rare cards. So think of it like this, if you're trying to win the lottery, or whatever, if you're trying to win the lottery and there's 100,000 people, limited, so to speak, or if you're trying to win the lottery when there's 10,000 people, rare, then you're going to have more chance of winning. So I would say, yeah, if you, in my opinion, if you're spending, I'd say below, let's just say you have a rough idea of how much you want to invest in Sorare. Let's just say it's anything below £3,000 or $3,000, 3,000, whatever, you know, £3,000 UK. I don't know. I know some people watch my videos from different countries. I don't know what that translates to, but roughly, if you're not going to spend more than that, if you're loading up Sorare and you're saying I'm definitely no matter what not spending that much, just stick to limited. That's what I would say anyway. Because there is I guess cheap ways to get into rare, but you know if you want to be winning and returning investment, then I recommend probably just play unlimited. To be fair, but yeah. So with that being said, I guess the next step is picking your teams or picking the cards that you want to pick up. I think this is quite a common um, question in my live streams is who should I buy? Pretty much, that's like probably the most common question. And I would say, first of all, buy the team that you like or support. Newcastle, for me, obviously, I just moved to Newcastle. For those of you that don't know, and it just seemed like a no-brainer to be buying into the Newcastle team because I know I'm going to watch every game. I've been to one of the games against Liverpool, thankfully. Great game, 3-3. And yeah, I just know that I'm going to watch all of their games. So for me, I bought both Classic and Limited, which is of Newcastle because I know that I'm pretty much going to be able to tell who's going to be playing every weekend. And I think that's probably one of the most underrated things a Sorare manager can have or know, if that makes sense. That's one of the things that I will have advantage over to everyone else that owns Newcastle players but don't watch them is I'm going to know who's going to play and who's playing well, who's in good form and things like that, as opposed to managers that might just buy the collection or buy players and not watch the games, which is quite common. It happens. I mean, we'll go on later in this video and I'll show you some that I've even done that for. So yeah, it happens in Sorare. Because moving on onto the next purchases is you do sort of fall in love with teams that you maybe don't expect to, or you get invested into teams that you don't necessarily perhaps watch before you buy them, if that makes sense. So that's what Sorare can do. That's kind of the beauty of it. So for me, that team was Aston Villa. I didn't really watch much of Aston Villa before I got Sorare, but yeah, I bought them because they got Champions League this season, and I wanted midweek utility. So I bought the Villa boys at the start of the season, and yeah, I've watched all their games. So that's yeah, I guess that's the good thing about Sorare is it sort of entices you to watch more football, which is only ever a good thing, right? But yeah, so and then I've got the Spurs boys as well. Granted, Spurs have been not too brilliant for me. Chelsea, I think, is a really good collection to buy into just because they've got 42 cards in their collection. So you like to think in a couple of years, a lot of them players are going to have good utility. And then Girona, I'll get on to that, but that was sort of a present to myself, almost like a congratulations to myself. And then yeah, some of the other collections are not too, be from rewards and things like that. But yeah, so if we have a quick look then, so that would be my biggest advice for someone. If you're not sure what to buy your team that you support, and then so obviously you would have identified the competition you're playing in then. So if you're playing, if you buy a Premier League stack, then you know that you're going to be entering the Premier League competition, La Liga, vice versa, Bundesliga, vice versa. If it's Serie A or Ligue 1, you're probably going to be playing the champion. And then obviously so on and so forth. There's challenger region, contender, under 23s, things like that. Pretty much the next step is to identify the competition you want to enter after you've bought, your favorite players, if you like. So yeah, that helps build into the strategy. So that's what you want to do next, sorry, is to build into the strategy. So let's just say, so for me, obviously Premier League, quite obvious, and under 23s are like the two competitions that I really wanted to focus on. And obviously Premier League does fit into Champion, so I thought as the season goes on, I can sort of develop some champion lineups as well along the way, especially with rewards and things like that. So, um, that would be your next step, is knowing the competition that you want to play. Now, I will say that, sort of with that being said, um, you do want to take into consideration the whole debate of classic versus in season. Now, I do want to talk about this because I'm on the wrong one here, guys. Sorry, we're in live right now. So this is another topic of conversation that definitely comes up, and yeah, especially in this point of the season. I think if you're just downloading SORARE for the first time, you're like, what's the difference between, say, this Anthony Gordon, for example, and this Anthony Gordon? Obviously, you can see the pictures are a bit different, the cards are a bit different. You might be like, wait a minute, what's the difference? So pretty much the new season cards, so the ones that I had the majority of on screen, are called in season, and then obviously these ones are the classic ones. So pretty much when you play an in-season competition, you're allowed one classic card. If you want, you can have a full in-season, just like my middle team here, or you can have one classic card, just like the other two teams obviously have a classic Gordon and a classic Isak. And pretty much the price, the reason why you might have, for example here, why have I got a classic Isak in this one, might be because you don't have much money and you want, because obviously a classic Isak is going to be cheaper because the in-season competitions, pretty much money is on the line, so you can win pretty much just straight up cash, as opposed to classic is you would win cards. So pretty much instead of winning £200, you might win a tier 1, and obviously you open that tier 1 and then hope that their value is £200. You know what I mean? So you hope that their value is going to be, that'll pretty much be your return on investment, is the cards. And obviously when you open the classic rewards, they will be in season cards, which are obviously worth more than the classic cards that you won to get that in season card. So that's pretty much a breakdown of what they are. Now, in terms of what should you buy, now I will say, for me personally, I would not be looking at classics because you've sort of missed your window due to XP and collection bonus and the people you're competing against. Obviously, you might look at it and be like, "Oh, what do you mean you've missed the window?" I mean that because people like me, who at the start of the season have bought these cards, I'm gonna have a higher XP on cards. So unless you're going completely, like cards that people wouldn't use, like really niche cards, then I would just be looking to buy in season. But if you have a really wide range of knowledge and you like loads of different players, then maybe classic is good for you because then you're gonna have spend less money to enter a competition that people aren't going to be playing the same five as you, and you can yield back. Well, if you think that you can pick five players that no one else is using and they all smash and win the competition, you know what I mean? So yeah, pretty much I heavily recommend to do in season, unless you're going to be doing five different players. With that being said, even in season, unless you've got, I mean, probably not even. I think if you're starting right now, you're buying in seasons right now. When you line up players, I recommend to have probably at least three different teams in one lineup because you're going to need the differential. Because, for example, players like me that have this, okay, let's just say Bruno. You can see here my card bonus is 15.5% because I've been playing all season with this Bruno. Whereas if you bought this Bruno right now, he might only be 5%. So if my Bruno goes against your Bruno, obviously my Bruno is going to win. So that's why when I say differential, that's what you sort of need in SORARE, especially with if you're buying into the season now in 2025. So sort of a review then on my purchases. Do I regret? Probably a big question that people, yeah, probably another question that people would want to know is, do I regret buying my gallery? Yeah, I'd say do you regret buying your gallery? And I would say that no, obviously not, because the things that I have yielded from my gallery is obviously quite substantial. Having if I click onto this screen here, this is obviously my best game week, granted. I did manage to get a podium, which was fantastic and yielded a lot of my money back just in this one game week. But generally speaking, I keep tabs of everything I do. Again, I recommend this for people just getting into it. Keep track of what you're buying and what you're selling, and what you've got to use. So this is my spreadsheet for my lineups and who am I going to play where and things like that. I mean, this is just basic planning to me. Plan your lineups every week. And yeah, I'm not going to sit and explain everything to you guys, but pretty much I put how likely they are to start, how likely they are to win their game, how well they've been performing, how likely they are to keep a clean sheet for goalkeepers, and then obviously for forwards and midfielders it would be like how likely they are to score 3 or more goals. And then that gives me a basic rating, and then I can go, alright, look, for example here, Emi Martinez is rating, well, I would rate him based on my research that he's 0.65, so roughly, should be keeping a clean sheet really. Whereas, I'm not going to play, let's just say Fraser Forster, way worse rating, so I'm not going to pick I'm not going to pick Fraser Forster over Emi Martinez. So that's the planning that I do when it comes into lineups, and you've got like a big gallery like me, and you need to keep track of all the players. But then this is another page I use. This is my pretty much just seeing what I've invested in. This is very important, I think, especially if you're going to spend a lot of money, to keep track of where your money's gone. How much have you returned, what have they got you, and I can see very clearly on the spreadsheet if it's working for me or not. You know what I mean? So we can see that I've invested about £2,000 and returned £1,000. Obviously, being halfway through the season, it's kind of like you're on track, but obviously I've gained. Personally, this is just number. Obviously, return on investment is purely just fact, but you can't factor in the other things. Like, for example, I've met so many fantastic people through SORARE. I've had so much fun on the game, and also I've created this YouTube channel from it. So for me, them three alone would already say, like, I'm very happy to say that I feel like I've got a very, and on top of the fact that obviously my gallery isn't included in this, so if I was to sell everything, obviously my return on investment is going to go up a lot more, if that makes sense. So let's just say my gallery now, I don't know how much it's worth, but let's just say it's worth 500, then obviously that would go straight into return on investment, and then I've got 1.5k returned, if that makes sense. But that would mean obviously I'm returning nothing more and I've lost £500. So if you see it like, it depends how you see it. Obviously I back myself as a manager, and I believe I can make more than my gallery's worth between now and the end of the season. Obviously, yet to find out, but we'll see. And yeah, it's just nice to see where you've purchased what, and what they've earned you. So you can see here, Newcastle money-wise have earned me £300, and 45 boxes. Obviously, I've spent £500 on them, so I've only returned 56%. But yeah, pretty much it's a great way to see. This is a great way for me to see what maybe is a bad purchase and maybe something I might regret, as opposed to something that I don't regret. So for example, the Newcastle purchase I don't regret, because that's, they've been doing great. They got me a podium, and yeah, obviously I don't regret that. But whereas maybe Villa, and Spurs, oh, don't want to ruin my spreadsheet. Villa and Spurs have been doing awful for me, really, and they haven't really done anything for me. But then the Chelsea and under 23s, done a bit more, you know what I mean? So you can sort of see where you've gone right, wrong, things like that. And also take into account boxes. I think people do undervalue boxes. But yeah, I think boxes are important as well because then obviously they build you essence. And like for example here, I have £73 return on investment, and that's pretty much purely from boxes, obviously from essence. And you can see a large amount of that is brought in from Newcastle and under 23s, and obviously the rest. But yeah, good to keep track of. Obviously ins and outs. I also keep a little player of the week here just for fun, to be honest. And it'll be nice to see at the end of the season, how many, who occurred the most in my sort of player of the week. And yeah, just a little fun thing. You don't really have to do something like that. That's just me. I just love spreadsheets, so doing stuff like that. Yeah, but I think people wanted me to show. I've had a few questions about my spreadsheets and stuff, but yeah, I think a few people wanted me to show sort of what I have on here. And to be honest, so pretty much anytime money is involved in my gallery, I'll come to this page, type it in. Anytime I'm building lineups, I'll come to this page. So I'm on this page a lot. I use this more than SORARE data, for example, but I do use SORARE data, for example, here to calculate my own rating. So most people use SORARE data. For those of you guys that don't know, this is this website, which is a really good tool to sort of build lineups and stuff and scout. Um, and yeah, anything pretty much is really good for. Also, another good site linked with SORARE is Predictify, and this is where you would sort of get predicted lineups ahead of the weekend. So you can see here, for example, Newcastle, and you can sort of have a little look and see who's likely to play, who's not likely to play, things like that. Obviously, it's impossible for them to 100% get it right all the time, but if you look at the percentages, it kind of gives you an idea of like who's risky. So, for example, like this whole part of the pitch here, they're pretty safe, and they did all play today. Sven Botman did play as well, but Trippier didn't. But obviously, if you know that Trippier is only 60%, you can be like, oh, right, that's probably, that's risky. That's my own risk. I'm, willing or not willing to take. But yeah, so moving back to SORARE then, that's sort of like the add-ons of SORARE. It's like the extra stuff you can do. But yeah, so pretty much, do I regret buying? Obviously not, because I already feel like I've returned a lot of enjoyment and things from this website. But yeah, that my favorite in terms of like. Also, another question I get asked is obviously what's my favorite or best cards in SORARE. Obviously my favorites, or yeah, I would say. Oh, where am I? I'm trying to find my gallery. So my favourites would obviously be the Newcastle boys. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and the reason why I love it is because I feel like, well, I'm 10th in the collection of Newcastle, and I feel like a lot of my players are very high XP. So when I play them against other managers, I feel very confident that, say, for example, my Gordon is going to outperform other Gordons. Now, a big reason, and this should be the case because, for example, now I bought my Gordon 4 months ago for £41. Now I haven't checked, but I can absolutely guarantee you that Gordon is not going to be £40 anymore. He's going to be like, I haven't checked, but I'm going to guess he's like £10, £15. Because if you buy him now, obviously you're going up against people. He's going to have less value because he has less utility, and also you're going to be playing him against people like me that have him at level 10 and things like that. So let's just say, for example, now let's click into him. If you want a Gordon right now, oh wow, he's still hold. Oh, wow, he's holding his value, to be honest. I'm actually pretty surprised he's I guess because he's been performing well recently, maybe people buying him. But yeah, there's definitely players here that I've lost money on, especially in other galleries. Maybe Newcastle's a good one right now because they're in hot fire, hot form or whatever, and they're returning me a lot. But for example, another gallery, I would have lost a lot of money on some players. But yeah, that's sort of the thing that you have to do at the start of the season to get the advantage against players that might be starting now. So obviously bear that in mind when you're buying cards now. You're going to be sort of competing against people that paid more money for them at the start. For example, okay, this is a great example. Morgan Rogers, definitely overpaid for him, 32 quid. When I bought him at the time, he was perfect for my gallery. I needed him for the weekend. I knew I was overpaying for him, but I was like, screw it, I need someone, you know what I mean? I was kind of like panic buying. So for example, now I bet he's probably like 6 quid or something, especially because he's not playing this weekend, so his price will be even lower. So yeah, definitely, I mean, over half, you know what I mean? Of the money that I invested into him. So yeah, bear that in mind if you're starting SORARE today, that obviously there'll be people that are ahead of you this season. And you can also sort of bear that in mind. You could sort of say, all right, I'm going to play free to play until the start of the next season, and then when the next season hit, boom, I'm going to know everything. I'm going to buy, invest all the players and start at the same level as everyone else in season next season. But bearing in mind, the players' prices will be high because that's just when everyone's going to be buying the same sort of thing, so the prices go up. You know what I mean? Like for example, now let's say you're looking at Onana and you look and see, oh, it's £3 in season right now. That doesn't mean next season when they release his card he's going to be £3. It'll probably be like tenner, 15 quid, because it's like start of season fresh, everyone's at the same level again, level playing field, and that's what you're paying for. You're paying to be almost like the first or the best owner of Onana, for example. So when you go up against other Onanas, your one's going to cook. Like for example, my Onana he's probably not the most insane level, to be fair, but level 7 is pretty decent for an in-season right now. So I know that my Onana's probably not the highest, but at 12.5%, he's definitely going to be up in the a decent percentile, like compared to everyone else. But yeah, a lot of information in this video. I'm just sort of, yeah, very different to the forms of videos that I have been doing on the channel. Like I said, this is more like sort of podcasty vibes. I'm aware we've been going for 30 minutes, but honestly, I feel like I could go for another 30. But if you have managed to get this far, do let me know if you prefer these sort of like longer videos, like sort of sit down and talky. Obviously, my in terms of uploads, just quickly, I don't want to bore you guys with my schedule or anything, but in terms of like the week, I tend to sort of experiment early in the week with like early, I guess, yeah, early uploads in the week. I'm like sort of experimenting and saying like, let's try something new, let's try this, let's try. So if you guys are listening to this and you do like this sort of style of content, then do let me know in the comments, because I do read every single comment. So if you guys put in the comments and say, oh, I actually really enjoy listening to you for whatever, speak or yap or whatever, then let me know. If you don't, then also let me know, because then I won't do another video like this. Obviously I'll be able to tell from the views and the performance of the video if it's something that I should do again. But I thought I might as well at least try, something a bit different. But yeah, so with that being said, I think that another question I get asked a lot is, where should I enter my players? And honestly, sometimes you'll just know. Like for example, you can see how many people have entered some of the competitions. So if you can see, for example, someone has entered, 10k people have entered into a comp, you're probably going to not want to enter into that comp, because you're like, okay, that's a lot of competitions. I'm going to need a crazy score in order to win this. And how sad is this, guys? Look, Tosin's not playing. This is the pain of SORARE. This is the side that you probably don't see. Look at that. It's like a perfect lineup, and then there's just Tosin just chilling on the bench, which is just great. that's pain right there. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot. I've lost trail of thought. Because the games are playing. The games are playing. Oh, nice. Oh no, I've lost what I was speaking about now. That is not ideal. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess to get back to the point if you're buying or if you're on SORARE now, yeah, definitely rivals to start with. Then target the competition or look at the competitions you want to target. In terms of like what I suggest, honestly, it's just down to what you know the best and what your team is in. If you know a lot of young talent, then obviously go for under 23s. If you watch La Liga every weekend, go for La Liga, and things like that. I will say, generally speaking, if you're going under 23s, you want to go with players that are playing. Pretty self-explanatory. Um, La Liga, I recommend like double defenders or more defensive players because it's quite a defensive league. It tends to be less goals, harder to score. So your forwards, you need someone that's in the a good quality forward, because it's quite hard in that league to perform um, as a forward. Bundesliga, I'd say probably the opposite to La Liga. Like get loads of attackers, easy to score. Um, yeah, focus on the defense, like the quality in the defense, because obviously it's not many good goalkeepers and defenders, in my opinion, in that league. Um, then Premier League, sort of a mix, really. I'd say probably the best thing you could do in SORARE is pick a team that that everyone almost doesn't rate or doesn't think's going to do well. Like for example, this season the best purchases would have been like Nottingham Forest, Fulham, people that teams that people would have probably put like bottom half of the table or something, but they're actually cooking, and they're the teams that are gonna yield you a lot of money. And if that's what you're looking for in Zero, if you're trying to like build a profit or um, yeah, have a financial game, that's sort of the game you've got to play in Zero. Is like go against the ordinary, buy when people aren't buying, buy when people are injured. That's if you're super into the market and that side of it, obviously they're the things I recommend. Like pretty much buy in the dips, buy when no one else is buying, and sell when everyone's buying. That's pretty much what you got to do, and that's like basic market strategy for any marketing sort of, I guess, stocks or whatever. That's like sort of the basics of it. Is if everyone wants it, it's going to be high in demand. It's going to go up in money, up in value, and then if you've got that, obviously sell it. If that's sort of your goal for SORARE. For me, I'm not too bothered about the money side of things. I just want to enjoy it, have fun, put lineups in every weekend, watch football, and things like that. Obviously, I want the money as well, but it's not like a main priority for me. I'd rather, like, for example, let's just say I have a guy that's like, for example, Lewis Hall's been brilliant recently, and he's probably selling for more than I bought him for. But I'm not going to sell him because I like Lewis Hall and I want to use him. You know what I mean? So, but people who care more about the money side of things might be like, okay, let me sell Lewis Hall now. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'd say know your priorities, know what you want to do, know what you're getting into. SORARE is not a get rich quick scheme or anything. I think nothing in life. If you're falling for stuff like that, I'm gonna be a harsh opening to reality here. There's pretty much nothing in this world that is a you're gonna get rich quick from. So please don't. I don't think SORARE really sells itself like that. Like, oh, you know, you're gonna make millions from this. It's not really like that. It's like just a fun way of playing FPL, really. I think that's how it sort of that's how it portrays itself to me anyway. I don't think anyone's trying to cover up and act like this is some sort of like best investment of your life. It's more like have fun, enjoy it. If you've got a spare, oh sorry, if you've got a spare couple of quid laying around, invest in some players, have some fun, throw them in a lineup, hope they do well. You know what I mean? That type of vibe. Whereas I think some people, from the outside looking in, especially, might take it a bit too seriously and be like, "Oh, wait a minute, such a scam." But it's like, I don't know, it's not really, I don't know, not really like sold. And I hope sold like that. And I hope this video really maybe opens the inside, like opens the eyes of some people that are like, um, almost like this is real, like this is as real as it gets. I'm literally showing you how much money I put into it. Um, like here, I'm showing you completely exactly to the penny how much I've put into SORARE, and exactly to the penny how much I've got back. Can't really be much more open and clear about that. I mean, this literally spreadsheet has everything financial wise that I have won and lost. Obviously, hasn't got completely everything because I still have the actual gallery itself. Um, but yeah, I hope in this video sort of opens the eyes to people that haven't got SORARE yet and are pretty much like, should I buy it or whatever, or should I get into it? I'd say if you want to have fun in FPL and enjoy watching football, then definitely. I wouldn't deep it to like, if money's an issue, I probably wouldn't because it's more so like one of them things. It's kind of like for me, I used it as an alternate to gambling because, every weekend I'd chuck a fiver on an acca and lose the fiver pretty much. Whereas this is like you can more invest into the players, chuck that fiver onto a player or whatever, and then throw a lineup out, and you've still kind of got the fiver if that makes. Even if they do bad, you've still kind of got it if that makes sense because obviously you can sell the player. Um, so yeah, it's a good alternate to probably a really negative thing in our world right now. I think gambling's like very obviously heavily promoted and things like that at the moment, which is yeah. I mean, some people still class SORARE as gambling, and I can see why you would think that, but I guess it depends what you go into, like how you play SORARE, and also how you go into it. If you go into it thinking it's like, oh, I'm gonna make all this money back, and then you don't, then you could definitely see it like gambling, especially with how SORARE's developed as a game, more of a game over the past recent years. Obviously, people invested like. For those of you that don't know, SORARE has been a thing for however many years, and people used to be paying ridiculous amounts of money for these cards, and then obviously earning a lot of money with them and things like that. And then obviously now you look at some of the cards, that were like worth, a grand, and now they're worth like a tenner. I mean, the game just like that. The game changes, quite simply put. And I could see why you'd be annoyed and things like that. But at the same time, if you're investing that much money, it's sort of like you should be thinking about it a bit more. You know what I mean? If you're throwing money like that at a game like this, is sort of like, I'm not saying it's your own fault, but you know what I mean. It's sort of like, oh, you can. Yeah, I don't know how to word it right, but pretty much it's like, oh, you just know what you're buying, and try and optimize it as much as you possibly can, because like that's for example like me, why I've got these spreadsheets, why I put so much time into things like this, why yeah, why I put all the time and effort into my YouTube channel and things like that, is because I know what I'm doing, in the sense of like, I know what I bought. I know what I'm going to get out of it. I know what I want. I want to build a community. I want to enjoy SORARE. I want to talk to people about it. I want to make content on it and things like that. And I know what I'm getting from the money that I paid. Whereas some people might just be like, oh, let me pay whatever for this and it's going to win me all this money back straight away. It can give SORARE a real negative connotation in that sense, like, because you're not getting what you think that you're getting, if that makes sense. And obviously, I could be sitting here if I didn't get that podium, or let's say I didn't return um, wherever it is. So let's just say I didn't return this much money, then I could obviously be sitting here and be like, oh my god, I've made such a stupid mistake. Oh, bad decision, all that stuff. But I still think I'd be sitting here and looking at the positives and saying, look, I've actually, got what I've got. I spoke to so many people, especially on Twitter and things like that, about the game and stuff. I still think I would be like happy. You know what I mean? I'd still be happy with my decisions. So yeah, really. Sorry, I can rattle on about things for a while, but yeah, I do intend on touching upon, well, my last sort of topic I wanted to touch upon, um, is my plans for the future. So this was sort of the most recent question that got asked to me, and I was sort of like, wait a minute, I don't really know. So I got asked in stream, what are my plans for the future for the gallery? Um, am I going to buy in season next year? What am I going to do in my gallery? And honestly, I had a thought about it because I was like, well, in stream, I don't even think I answered it because I was like, damn, that's a great question. You know, when they catch you off guard. But I went back and sort of thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna keep my so the collections that I went out and bought at the start of this year, that being Spurs, Aston Villa, Newcastle. I think I'm gonna keep them like pretty much no matter what, even if they all just completely, you know, just have no value or whatever. I just think I'll just keep them because that's just I just will keep them forever and play classic with them. Um, and then in terms of everything else, I probably, obviously I don't know because that's in the future, but I think the plan moving forward is probably to sell everything outside of my 5% collections. So you know the odd, if we go in here, most of my things that aren't in collections are under 23, so it's kind of hard. But like for example, I'll probably sell, if I'm guessing, Girona, these Tottenham, Brighton, pretty much everything below Girona here. I'll probably sell and try and fund as many in seasons as I can for next season. And then I'll use these sort of 5 collections as the classic sort of competitions or even captains in the next in season comp. And yeah, in terms of like who I'm going to buy, I'm probably going to go with the same strategy that I've been suggesting people for this video. I'll definitely buy a Newcastle collection because why wouldn't I? And then I'll probably pick 2 teams like Villa and Spurs. Probably not Villa and Spurs, like just something a bit different. But I'll probably pick like 2 teams that. That's probably what I learned the most. I'd say the biggest takeaway from this video, if you've made it this far, 40 odd minutes into it, I would probably buy the players or the teams that people don't think are going to do well. So that'll probably be my other 2 collections. It'll probably be Newcastle and then 2 teams that maybe people don't think are going to do that well, but I think are going to do well, if that makes sense. So your Nottingham Forests, your Fulhams and stuff like that. Like probably a team that maybe finishes mid-table this season, that maybe I thought done well at the back end of the season or things like that. In terms of like who, I haven't really thought too much about it yet, because obviously I'd have to look at prices going into next season, how much are in seasons. Obviously we can only plan so far ahead because if limited next season comes out and it's like ridiculously overpriced, then obviously I'm not going to buy it. Obviously that's a video for the future when obviously in seasons are out, and no doubt I'll be making content on it. Because yeah, you guys know me. Um, and yeah, so I think that is my plans in the future or going ahead with SORARE is sort of carry on doing what I'm doing. Absolutely maximizing everything I can with my gallery, like making sure I really plan my lineups, be careful with who I'm selecting, just try and absolutely maximize what I've purchased. And then obviously I'll be doing an end of year sort of review of my gallery and saying like this is how much I lost or this is how much I gained, whatever the outcome might be. And then sort of the plans going forward, yeah, obviously see how what SORARE has to unfold, because obviously if they come out with loads of great competitions and all this sort of stuff, then it'll make me want to invest more into it. But then it could obviously go the other way around where it just sort of dies off a bit and then no one really plays it or whatever, you know what I mean? So there's loads of eventualities that can happen in the future. You never know what could happen. Tomorrow football could just close, you know what I mean? Obviously not going to happen, but very, you never really know with the future. That was my main point, and that's sort of why I found it so hard to answer that question in stream, because I was like, that's kind of hard. I'm just focusing on the here and the now, maximizing the here and the now, and then I'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. And yeah, I mean, everyone has their own different strategies. Everyone will think about it differently. There might be managers now that have bought this season in plans for next season. You know what I mean? Like everyone works differently. But for me personally, I'm just trying to get the most out of this season, and enjoy the life that I have now. Live in the moment, and things like that. So yeah, with that being said, I do appreciate if you somehow made it this far into the video. I am aware it's a very long video. I did want to try something different today. Like I said, this could completely fail. No one listens to it, and I'll never make a video this long again. Or it could be the opposite. People will be like, oh, we actually kind of like this kind of stuff. Or maybe people just prefer it live. I don't know. Hence the experiment. But yeah, with that being said, obviously, please leave a like on the video. As always, subscribe, share with whoever, help the channel grow. I've got to hit the algorithms, and yeah, so any support, obviously, I appreciate, guys. Yeah, I reply to every single comment, so I hope you guys yeah, do leave any sort of feedback in the comments, because it helps me improve the channel. And yeah, I like to think of this as sort of our channel as well. It's not just my channel, it's all the people that comment on it. Obviously the road to glory feels like a family, the stream feels like a family. You got all of you guys supporting the channel, and I really do appreciate it. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in a future video, well, later on this week, streaming and whatnot. And yeah, peace. Appreciate it.